We have the pleasure of hosting ex-RBI Governor Dr. D. Subbarao today for an ET Markets Masterclass. Dr. Subbarao was at the helm of the central bank when the world was reeling under the effects of the global financial crisis. When it comes to handling crisis in recent times, perhaps his experience is unparalleled. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Subbarao.
Thank you.
We've been seeing that government borrowing has been increasing exponentially over the last few years. Now, the last couple of years have obviously been because of the COVID pandemic. So we are looking at 13 lakh crores if we sort of add in the GST borrowing compensation cess as well. Is there a problem in terms of our debt to GDP ratio? Because combined state and center is now somewhere at 90%. Is that a problem for the country?
I think it's a problem. As much as I want to emphasize once again that it is important for the government to spend on public investment, it's important also for us to be mindful of fiscal deficits and mounting debt. It's going to have an impact on our long-term growth prospects. The interest that we pay on an accumulated debt is the largest component of our budget. It takes up about 40% of the revenues. And if debt keeps mounting, a higher share of revenues will go to pay interest, and there'll be that much less left for other expenditure, and therefore that much less of growth prospects. So I think it's very important that we continue to focus on bringing fiscal deficits and thereby debt down. That as we entered the crisis, our debt to GDP was 70%. Today, because of all the borrowing by the central government and the state government, is likely to go up to 90%. And what is of greater concern is that it's likely to remain there and not come down easily in the foreseeable future. On the other hand, the FRBM committee has said that a sustainable debt level for India is 60% of GDP. So for every percentage point of debt to GDP, higher than 60%, we're going to lose growth. And cumulatively, that can be quite significant. So I believe it's very important to bring debt to GDP ratio down. And that's got to be done. It's a difficult challenge, I have to admit, because you need growth to bring debt to GDP down, but you need to bring fiscal deficits down in order to bring up growth. So it's a difficult challenge, but that's something that we should not let our guard down.
The government has a lot of ambitious plans in terms of, divestment, asset monetization, strategic divestment, and whatnot to bridge that fiscal gap. In your opinion, how skeptical or hopeful are you of these ambitious plans? And if you were in that role, would you prescribe something different?
The reality is that our economy is in huge need of infrastructure, because infrastructure has a big multiplier impact on growth. And the government does not have the resources to build it. Earlier, we tried the PPP model, public-private partnership. The experience was unsatisfactory because we found that the private sector was unable to manage the risk in the pre-construction and construction stage. So what is asset monetization going to do? Asset monetization is going to distribute the risk according to comparative advantage. The government is better positioned to manage the risk in the construction stage, and the private sector is better positioned to manage the risk in the operation stage. So that's what asset monetization is going to do. The government is going to monetize its existing assets, take that money and build new infrastructure. There's been a lot of criticism that's going to lead to monopoly. Consumer prices are going to go up. There's going to be asset stripping. These are valid concerns, but there's no reason for not doing it. What they indicate is that in going forward with asset monetization, we should take necessary action to mitigate these risks. Take monopoly, for example. I don't see why asset monetization should actually lead to greater monopoly. On the other hand, I can see greater distribution happening because the possible pool of bidders for operating an asset will be much wider than the possible pool of bidders for a PPP model, for example. And we might get foreign parties to come in. So I see a possibility of less monopolization rather than greater monopolization. That said, of course, it's very important in framing the contract to be very careful, draw from prior experience to indicate clear performance indicators, to allow for unforeseen contingencies, to allow for quick settlement of disputes as they come up. And I think it can be managed quite well if we professionalize contract management. So I think it's a good thing to do, and I think we should do it, scale it up, do it small, do the easy parts first so that we learn by doing.